Welcome back, everybody. Today's topic is 4 top ways to get out of a speeding ticket as explained by a police officer, with review of that advice by an attorney. Now, I wish I could give you a criminal attorney, but what you get is a business attorney because this is my channel. As always, go ahead, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and let's get started. Let's start off with a little bit of context. I've been doing these YouTubes for a few months, and I thought it would be nice to do a topic that is very common, that a lot of people run into. People get speeding tickets, this happens. It's a very common legal problem. I approached a friend of mine who's a police officer and said, hey, would you mind providing your kind of top 3, 4, 5 pieces of advice on how people can avoid getting a speeding ticket? And then I will react to those as an attorney. He very graciously did so, and you know who you are, thank you. I will also be providing you his advice verbatim, although I will not be disclosing his identity. So with that, let's jump right into the first piece of advice. Number 1, don't break the law, parentheses, easier said than done, LOL. Man, this is gonna be a great video. Aren't you glad you clicked on this? Okay, what's my reaction here? Obviously, the best way to avoid a speeding ticket is to not speed. This is both correct and entirely unhelpful. So let's hop into piece of advice number 2 and hope that we have something actually useful. Piece of advice number 2, don't argue about anything. Parentheses, no excuses. Everyone's got to get somewhere for some reason. I actually like this advice. This is really, really good. Both for the reason that he has in mind, which is being respectful to the officer and not, nobody likes somebody that argues with you over every step of the way. That's why people don't like lawyers. But also for another reason. Remember back to your Miranda rights that you've seen in every cop movie and every police show and all this, right? As soon as you get arrested, you have the right to remain silent because anything that you say can be used against you in court. Now, if you get stopped and you tell the police officer, oh, I'm speeding because I had to get to my grandmother's hospital emergency thing, you can't later then come in and say, oh, no, I was speeding because my speedometer broke, or I was speeding because my wife was pregnant, or whatever other reason. Once you tell that to the police officer, you're stuck with that story. I'm not saying that you should lie, but keep in mind, innocent until proven guilty. So if they don't actually have you on radar, if you say, I was speeding because, guess what? You've just admitted that you were speeding. So don't argue with the cop about anything. It's good advice for both of these reasons. Piece of advice number 3 goes hand in hand with 2, but be respectful. Being nice goes a long way. I'm also going to agree with this piece of advice because if there's any chance, tiny chance that the officer is inclined to maybe let you off with a warning, that chance is gone if you start acting like a jerk and you start acting rude. They're going to decide that you don't deserve a warning and they're within their rights to give you a ticket. They're going to give you a ticket. Now, another point that being polite actually, I think, tends to make it easier to assert your rights. So if you want to say, assert your right to remain silent or assert your right to decline to answer a question or this kind of thing, asserting that right in a polite way makes the impact much stronger. So I think politeness and courtesy goes a very, very long way in police interactions. Piece of advice number 4, be honest. Most times, if someone's honest, I'll give them a warning for the violation unless there's multiple or they have a history because they already know they messed up. Now, this one is where we're going to have a little bit of a disagreement. And that goes back to something that I very briefly alluded to earlier, which is your right to remain silent. Now, if the cop has you totally cold, totally dead to rights, there might be something here, and depending on the police officer. But the problem with being totally honest rather than just remaining silent and exercising your constitutional right to remain silent, the problem with being honest is that you may give the police something that they didn't have before. When they say, for example, sir, do you know why I'm stopping you? Well, yes, officer, I was going 95 and a 60. Maybe they didn't have you on radar. Maybe you just kind of looked like you were going a little bit fast. But the minute you make that admission, they now have evidence against you that they can say, yes, Mr. So-and-so told me that he was going 90 and a 60, and he knew that he was going 90 and a 60. Then they've got you cold, Whereas before, maybe they just kind of looked like you were going a little bit fast. They weren't sure, didn't have you on radar, nothing like that. Maybe in limited circumstances, this is good advice. Certainly with this police officer, it would be good advice. But I would advise my clients to maybe err on the side of less talking and more silence. Now, special bonus round for those of y'all that have managed to stick around this far. We're going to talk about something that you can do once you've actually already gotten the ticket, because that's probably why you're searching this video, right? Once you've actually gotten the ticket, you may have some wiggle room in court. Now, depending upon your jurisdiction, this is very different in every state, every county actually. But in Bexar County, you have something called deferred adjudication, which is essentially you can talk with the prosecutor and say, listen, suspend the sentence. I'll enter a guilty plea with a suspended sentence. And if I'm good for the next however many months, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, whatever it may be, depending on the severity of the charge, then the charges will be dropped at the end of that time. Now, you have to pay your court fees, filing fees, et cetera, so you still end up paying some fines. Why is this so useful? Well, one of the biggest impacts of a speeding ticket for most folks financially is that it increases your insurance rates. So by getting something like a deferred adjudication where it never actually hits your record, you're never actually convicted because the charges are dismissed at the end of the probation period, your insurance rates don't rise. So this may or may not be available in your jurisdiction, but if it is, it's something to consider. Thank you guys again for tuning in. A very, very special, heartfelt thank you to my friend, the police officer. You know who you are. Really appreciate you letting me use your wisdom and advice to kind of riff off of and make a YouTube video. As always, if you're enjoying the content here, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see y'all next time. Take care.